Good morning and back to the studio. Today we have a very exciting guest. I think it's her first time on the Sunshine Studio, isn't it?
Yes, it is. We have here in the studio, as Nov, my colleague, just said, a special guest. We know that Kuwait enjoys a huge and rich credit of status and excellence reputation on the international level, thanks to the keenness of the Kuwaiti leadership on establishing and reinforcing distinguished diplomatic relations with different countries worldwide.
Based on that, the state of Kuwait takes fast and distinguished steps to develop and reinforce the mutual relations with the United States of America in all fields, particularly recently to face the consequences of the novel coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. For more details about the special and unique Kuwaiti-American relations, we are glad to have with us today Her Excellency Alina Romanowski, U.S. Ambassador to the State of Kuwait. Good morning, Your Excellency, and thank you for being with us.
Well, thank you, Nov and Amal, for having me on your show this morning. It's a real pleasure to be with you and your viewers who've tuned in this morning. I hope they're staying safe and healthy. And speaking of that, I wanted to, before we get started, to send my best wishes and the wishes of our whole embassy to His Highness the Emir for a very speedy recovery.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, and that's very kind and thoughtful of everybody at the American Embassy. Now, Your Excellency, 5 months have passed since your arrival in Kuwait as U.S. Ambassador. How do you evaluate the ambassadorship life so far in Kuwait, especially during the COVID-19 crisis? Unfortunately, the Kuwaiti people are very known for hospitality and culture, and that is a part that we were not able to show you during these times with social distancing and all of that going on.
Well, that's a great question, and you're right. I arrived 5 months ago to what was already a very active social schedule, and then COVID hit all of us. Mm-hmm. And you're right. The one thing I do remember is how warmly welcomed I was by the Kuwaitis. But I have to say that we've managed, despite all of the very important decisions that the government made on COVID, to sort of stay in touch by phone and by using technology, as we are here too. But I'm really honored to be here in Kuwait, to have the opportunity to make our relationship even stronger. You probably know that we're in the year of celebrating 60 years of diplomatic relations. Mm-hmm. As a diplomat, it's my job to represent the United States in Kuwait, and frankly, that's a pretty easy job. We have a very, very long and deep relationship, so it makes it a lot easier. But I'm also here to meet people, and you were right about that. It's a little bit slow on that front, but we've managed. I'm also here to build stronger relationships between Kuwaitis and Americans, and also to work together to advance our mutual interests, and frankly, also to solve some problems in the region and some problems in the world.
Yes, definitely. Of course, the U.S. Embassy is known to be one of the most active embassies in all of Kuwait, with activities all year long and events, and we miss that so much, Your Excellency. We wanted to see your touch on the events that are usually taken at the embassy and everywhere else, but unfortunately, this is not going to happen for a while now. Your Excellency, also my co-host Amal has a question for you regarding the diplomatic relations. Amal?
Yes, no, thank you, and good morning, Your Excellency. I think that July is the month of the United States, and unfortunately we haven't been to the States to see the 4th of July fireworks and all that, but we witness it on the social media as that. So how do you evaluate the U.S.-Kuwaiti diplomatic relations and the strong partnership between the two countries?
Well, that's a great question, and I do want to say that Kuwaitis are not alone in seeing in wanting us to be as active as we used to do. Our whole embassy would like to be active too, because they also want to continue to engage the relationship. But we do have, to your question, an exceptionally strong relationship across a whole host of sectors. We have, as I said, 60 years of diplomatic relations, but our partnership really goes back even further. And when I went to visit the Americani hospital, it was really a reminder that our relationship that's, was working together and existed well back into the early 1900s, 1912, when we started the work on healthcare together. So during bad times and good times, we really stayed on Kuwait's side. Our ties are still really unbreakable 30 years after the invasion and liberation, and we take every opportunity to educate and continue to remind both Americans and Kuwaitis how important that relationship and that event was to solidifying, I think, a very long-term relationship. Our militaries continue to work closely together to keep the region safe and stable. In fact, just last week, as you probably know, the head of the U.S. Central Command, General McKenzie, was here to visit, probably one of the first visitors since COVID broke out, and he met with the Minister of Defense, the Prime Minister, and really conveyed to the leadership here the gratitude that the United States has for Kuwait's partnership and the critical role that Kuwait continues to play in supporting regional security and prosperity. If I can just take a few seconds here to talk a little bit about each critical sector. On the political side, obviously, we work closely with Kuwait on a number of regional issues. The trying to resolve the Gulf Rift, obviously, is another one that we've been very active with Kuwait and in the region, and we want to just thank His Highness the Emir for his efforts, and we continue to support those. Economically, we have a very strong economic and commercial trade relations. Last year, we did about $4.6 billion in two-way trade, so that's pretty significant. We work very closely with the business community here in Kuwait, also in sectors of oil, defense, healthcare, construction, information technology, and those are all sectors that we can continue to deepen our cooperation in that. And then frankly, the other one that is quite active and was very active most recently, as you know, is the higher education piece of it. The United States has been the destination for almost 70 years for Kuwaitis who are looking for to pursue higher education and quality higher education in the United States. So we want to make sure that the 12,000 Kuwaiti students who study in the U.S. continue to do that. And we were able, and they will be able to do that actually now with the change in the in the regulation. So that's a really good thing. We also finally work with closely with Kuwait as contributors to humanitarian assistance across the globe, especially in this time of COVID-19. So the generosity of both the Kuwaiti government and the U.S. government, and frankly the Kuwaiti people and the American people have contributed billions of dollars, millions and billions of dollars to the COVID prevention effort around the world. So we're very, very active together, and we value that collaboration that we do. Sometimes it's not always visible, but it's definitely there.
It is, and all of us really can see and touch the collaboration between the U.S. and Kuwait. And it is a marvelous job that you're doing, and the leaders of Kuwait also continuing to do the better of humanity and to better for the community. My co-host also, Nof, has another question in her mind, and I can see she's eager to say and ask you, Your Excellency. Nof?
Thank you, Amal. Going back to the embassy's role, and the services offered to American citizens in Kuwait, especially during COVID-19 crisis and pandemic. Was the embassy able to cover all of the needs of American citizens, especially those who have lost their jobs due to the economic crisis that is happening around the world?
Well, no, thanks for the question, because, it's not just what I said about what we all do to advance our relationship with Kuwait, but it's also the highest priority of the U.S. Embassy and myself as an ambassador is the safety and welfare of all Americans in Kuwait. And we have over 30,000 Americans who are here living and working in Kuwait. So while COVID has limited our ability to conduct the full range of regular consular services, we're still assisting Americans with passport renewals and emergency services. Our consular officers are on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to help Americans in need. And their work really never stops, even in COVID and certainly in emergency situations. We encourage Americans to register in what we call the Step Traveler Enrollment Program. It's a opportunity for Americans to stay very current on updates and information. We have also a website that we encourage people to make sure they check periodically. We have a dedicated email inbox where American citizens can ask general questions if they have them. And then obviously, as I said, for emergencies, we also have a telephone number that people can call us. Our consular officers are really dedicated officers. They take this job very seriously and passionately. So I really couldn't be prouder of the services they provide. So if I can just take one more opportunity to ask American citizens in Kuwait to regularly check the welfare also of their coworkers, their friends, and family members. In fact, I would even encourage Kuwaitis to do that during this time of challenging times. I encourage people to maintain also their mental and physical health. I'm certainly doing that, and to prepare for emergencies as best they can. If things have to change and services are not as extensively provided. And then finally, also seek medical assistance when you need it. Those are things that really can help individuals and also families to get through this crisis.
Definitely a great responsibility for an ambassador, especially at times of crisis. And, you know, we really respect you because you're also a role model, being a female ambassador. That is something that's always wonderful, of course. And now, Your Excellency, let's move on to another topic that is of concern, especially to students. Can you explain to us the U.S. Immigration and Custom Enforcement's recent decision pertaining to international students enrolled in full online courses of study? Also, you know, all the debate whether those can go back to the U.S. or not. Can you tell us the final decisions of the United States regarding that?
Yeah, no, that's a really important question, and thanks for asking it because first of all, as I said earlier, please let me extend my deepest and sincere appreciation to the thousands of Kuwaitis who are continuing to choose the United States as a destination for their higher education. You know, obviously, I will say I'm clearly biased, but a U.S. degree means success. And for generations, the Kuwaiti graduates of U.S. universities have become leaders in nearly every sector of Kuwaiti society. So that's very exciting for me in particular to meet some of the ministers, and we get to talk about their college days. Sometimes it's in the same parts of the country I've been, and sometimes but it's certainly fun to be able to talk about all of that. But going back to your question about what students can do, the international students, including Kuwaitis who are currently in the United States, are going to be able to remain in the United States to continue their studies online or in person, depending on the university. And this is where our system kind of differs from others. The situation is still fluid. It depends very much on the decisions that individual universities are going to take based on all sorts of factors. So I really encourage the current and prospective Kuwaiti students to be in touch with the university international student advisors, but also designated school officials. They will get the most up-to-date information on where that particular university or college is going in the fall or for the year. So that really is encourage Kuwaiti students and their families to take that initiative. The U.S. government's role in this is that we will work hard to ensure that international students are able to make normal progress in the full course of study as required by federal regulations, while maintaining also the flexibility with temporary adaptations to protect the health of students. So we're going to work with students here to make sure they can get their visas, apply for them, and give as much information as we can and keep them up to date. We work with the Ministry of Higher Education. We work with the National Union for Kuwaiti Students, or NUKS. Both of them are very close and important partners as we work on this together. So we are, again, our consular officers are here for responding to any kinds of questions and help Kuwaiti students get through this challenging time, because we want to definitely keep Kuwaitis coming to study in the United States.
Yes, of course. And Your Excellency, before we move on to another point with my co-host Amal, I'd like to comment on what you just said. I mean, studying in the United States is a lot more than just academic research and getting a degree. It's the whole experience that counts. It's building your character and learning about a different culture and history and a lot of things. You know, it's sad that a lot of students have to do the whole thing online. I feel really sorry for them, and I hope the vaccine is released soon so that life can go back, especially for those students who would like to fulfill a full life experience, not just a degree. So that was everything regarding colleges and universities. Amal has a question, and it's regarding something else. Go ahead.
It is, no, thank you. Your Excellency, as my colleague and co-host Nov just said, you are an idol and a role model as a women ambassador here in Kuwait. So lately we had 8 Kuwaiti women who have recently appointed as judges. What do you think, and what's your comment about that?
Well, I was very excited to learn that 8 Kuwaiti women were recently appointed as judges, as you can imagine. And I congratulate them on their recent nomination and also their confirmation. I think that is another historic milestone for this country and frankly for the region. So as a woman and as a professional woman, having made my way also professionally for the last 40 years, I really am excited to see that happen. May 17th was also another significant date where Kuwait celebrated the 15th anniversary of women's suffrage. And I also want to extend my greeting to each and every woman on this very important occasion. Just like women in Kuwait, women in the US fought very hard to attain their political rights. And this year also marks the 100th anniversary of women's suffrage in the United States. And sometimes it's one of those things that we so take for granted, but it's really important to be able to pause and reflect upon, how that happens and how absolutely dedicated it was for women and others and men to support that effort. I think we will all probably agree that we still have a long way to go to reach full equality in both the US and Kuwait, despite our remarkable progress, but that's what this is all about, working close together. I am very committed to supporting women's rights here and around the world, and I know that I have a strong partner here in Kuwait and with the women in Kuwait. So we have a lot of programs that we hope we can get Kuwaitis to be more involved in. We have an implementation plan that we just launched for a strategy on women, peace, and security. And I think research has shown that, the role of women and women engaged in their families and in their communities make all those things much stronger as a nation. So I am very committed to doing this and doing it in a way that respects our culture, our history, and our traditions. So I look forward to working on those issues here in Kuwait.
That's marvelous, and I know that the Kuwait and US has collaborated in women empowerment as one of the 7 pillars that Kuwait really insists on and institute. Another question is with my colleague Nov. She has it about visas and visiting to the US, isn't it? No.
Yes, of course. Now that the airport has plans to reopen for citizens and also expats, a lot of people are wondering about the visa services at the US Embassy. What are the updates?
Yeah, so again, I encourage everybody to to look at our website, because that is going to, and social media. Those are the most accurate and update ways in which we post changes or things. But right now, the embassy is not open to routine in-person interviews. The consular section has resumed limited visa operations for cases that don't require coming to the embassy. But when we can safely conduct visa interviews at the embassy, we'll prioritize students, obviously, and other applicants who have an urgent need to travel. So
urgent needs meaning like
are really the best place to get the most update information on when we're going to be able to open. But obviously, we will look at ways that we can do it and reflect also where Kuwait is going in their phases as well.
Your Excellency, when you said urgent needs, I think you meant like medical trips and those kinds of urgent needs?
Yeah, yes, urgent needs are medical emergencies. Sometimes there are deaths in families. I mean, there are all sorts of emergencies where, we are going to try to be as understanding and as accommodating as possible.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you very much, Your Excellency Alina Romanowski, the U.S. Ambassador to the State of Kuwait. And before we end this interview, I would like to say hi to all our friends at the U.S. Embassy, Rasha, Alia, and all the hardworking staff, the wonderful staff that you have that we never mention on any of our shows. I owe it to them to mention all the kindness I have received personally from them, being enrolled in some of the courses and the programs, and just for their everlasting kindness and constant smile. You have a wonderful staff. Let's not forget them.
Absolutely. We have a terrific staff here, and they are so committed to working on our relationship and making sure that we work together on advancing it, deepening it, and also working on many of the problems in the region. So yeah, it's a terrific staff, and I also thank them for all of the support they give me when I come on a show like this. And so yeah, you're absolutely right. They're terrific. They are terrific.
Yes.
And thanks for the shout out for them too.
Thank you very much for being with us this morning. Stay safe, and let's hope we meet very soon once this whole thing is resolved. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thanks again.
Yes, thank you very much, Your Excellency Alina Romanowski, and I wish to also thank all of our Ministry of Information staff and colleagues, our directors, and also Mr. Al-Jazzaf, and also the Undersecretary, Mr. Al-Khaldi. They really worked a lot to bring us the most information and most welcoming and ambitious and wonderful guest. And also, we will never forget our, we'd say, captain, Mohammed Al-Jabri, the Minister of Information, for a wonderful thing that we had news by the time, every and each day, to give us the latest on COVID-19. Your Excellency, one more thing before we end up. I really congratulate you on the routine that you have each morning during the COVID-19, on your running and walking and health, to taking care of your health as well. So thank you a lot, and thank you very much, as my co-host Nov also said. Thanks to the staff in the U.S. Embassy and everyone here in the Sunshine Studio, my colleagues upstairs and from the studio here. We really thanks and give you most welcome in Kuwait, and keep safe, keep well, and be healthy.
You too. Thanks a lot.